as we get to welcome in to the Small Business Spotlight here on this Wednesday morning. I'm going to go take care of that in just 1 second. We welcome in from Sweet Ashley, Rob Lawson. Joel, why don't you tell folks a little bit more about Rob and Sweet Ashley while I go turn the mic on?
Yeah, absolutely. We got to know each other when I was located in Royersford, and then we reconnected at the food festival right here on Columbus Day at Sunnybrook, and used to be located on Main Street, and now you have your own location right off 422 in technically Limerick, but it's still called Royersford.
Correct. Yeah. It's a Royersford mailing address.
Yeah.
Really, we're in Limerick Township.
Yeah.
We were on Main Street for 12 years.
Yeah. It's been 17 years total, right? You said coming up.
Oh, year 19 actually.
19.
Yeah, year 19 starts November 29th.
Oh wow, man.
Yeah. Time flies.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. It's a grind.
I know. We were just talking about that, man. It's like every day, like it could be your biggest high and your biggest low,
For sure.
while owning your own business.
For sure. There's definitely plenty of ups and downs.
Yeah.
Hopefully more ups than downs.
Yeah. Exactly, man. And there was a lot of people that at the food tasting.
Yeah.
But his table was one of the more popular ones. I know with me.
Yeah,
I love the sweet treats.
Whenever I couldn't find Joel, I just knew that I could go check by the Sweet Ashleys, and everything would be okay.
Yeah. Well, and you were telling me too. It's like over the pandemic, you guys made some like you adapted just like we did, where you sold some items that were unique, the bombs.
So yeah, we ended up getting into cocoa bombs, which
They were huge for a while.
it was huge.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it was a mistake. It was a challenge.
Right.
You go with TikTok trends.
Yeah.
And you run with it. We learned that cocoa bombs, even though we were good at making them, wasn't our thing.
Right.
So we got out of that after the pandemic.
We got out of that business.
Get out of the bomb business.
Out of the bomb business, absolutely. They took a long time to make.
Right.
So it wasn't necessarily worth it on our end. But we made a lot of changes. We updated our point of sale system so we could do curbside business, and we knocked it out of the park, I think.
Yeah. Well, you're still standing.
We're still standing, yes. Fortunately, unfortunately, things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, had we stayed on Main Street, we probably wouldn't have survived, just because of the curbside only business.
And I always tell people the same thing. For 7 years, I was located inside the Valley Forge Casino, and then made the jump to open up my own place in Royersford. Had I been in that casino was dead. There wasn't the empty lot like there was.
Probably would have been done.
Would have been done.
Yeah.
Can't put the dome up in the casino
No, you
parking
can't.
lot.
No.
You can't.
Yeah, while you can't gamble, come spend some time with a guy who's been gambling with his own life for years. But no, that's great, man. And you guys were able to make it happen over there.
Well, you do what it takes to survive.
Yeah, right.
That's
You
all
can
it
say
comes
that
down
now
to.
because it all worked out.
You can, but let's face it, most of us small business owners are fighters.
Yeah.
You have to have that mentality, right?
You have to have that mentality, and whatever it takes. We thought we were nuts as we were spending tons of money upgrading things with the uncertainty of if money was even going to come in.
Right.
Knock on wood, it did.
Right. Well, and if I could just take a second to understand what he's saying, we upgraded and updated our point of sale system. What if no more sales come in? This was all for naught. I mean, that's what you're basically saying, right?
It was a huge risk.
A huge risk, yeah.
Huge risk. But at the same time, we knew we had to do it.
Right.
And in the end, quite honestly, we're better off for it. We have better systems in place.
Right.
It pushed us out of our comfort zone.
Okay. Yeah.
Because what you were doing was working, but it wasn't advancing you.
Correct. So, there's jumps that we made that we probably should have made for years.
Right.
And we just didn't, because they were
You're
scary.
too busy on the grind.
Well, too busy on the grind. They're scary financial jumps.
Right.
And here we are. We said, all right, well, it's do or die. And we chose not to die.
Good for you, man.
Harry Carey is not an option for us.
So obviously your big days, Valentine's Day.
So Valentine's Day is our busiest 3 individual days in our store.
Okay.
Christmas is our busiest season.
Real?
You know,
Okay.
now, mind you, Christmas is a season.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it goes from Thanksgiving till Christmas Eve.
Okay.
Easter is our second busiest season.
Okay.
You know, because got to have Easter eggs and
Gotta
stuff
fill
in your
those baskets,
right?
yeah.
You know, I mean,
I'm
you can't get
familiar
away
with your
from
work.
that,
Yes.
right?
He's your biggest fan, by the way.
Yeah, right.
You work in his favorite medium.
So there we go, right? Yeah, you can't go wrong with chocolate. That's the beauty of what we do. However, you know, as individual days, you know, usually in our store between February 12th, 13th, and 14th, we'll see around 1,000 people, which,
Wow.
you know, we think is good.
Yeah.
You know, we have nothing to measure it by, but,
Right.
you know, yeah.
But it's between what days?
So February 12th, 13th, and 14th.
Jeez.
You know, usually about 300 to 350 people a day,
That's crazy.
which in a little store like ours, that's
Yeah.
That's
a
high
lot.
traffic.
Yeah.
it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's good. The
Now-
days go fast.
And the first year that you had that kind of traffic, did you have problems keeping up with the inventory? Like, I always wonder when you're going to have those busy days and you find out, look, these 3 days, and you know this now because you've been doing it, are so intense. But how do you know the first year that they're going to be like that?
That's an excellent question. Yes, we struggle with that, especially in the beginning, because we have no idea. And you never know what item's going to sell.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge.
You always have a thought.
I mean, we make, you know, probably 80 different items. And that changes from each year to the next, you know, as to what's going to be popular, what's not. And yes, we would have serious inventory problems. Back in the day, thank God things have gotten better and easier on the production side of it. But back in the day, we would work, no lie, you know, 18 to 20 hours a day trying to keep up because quite a bit of our manufacturing happens after we close our store.
Right.
So we close at 7. We'd be in production. By the time the machines are ready, it's 8 o'clock, and we're working till, you know, 2, 3, 4 in the morning. And then back at it at 7 a.m. to get back into the store to package and stuff like that. A lot of that happened because it was literally just my wife and I doing production, packaging, and selling. Now we have some staff that helps us with the packaging, so that makes it a little easier. But it's always a challenge, you know, as to what to keep up with.
Right.
Yeah, it's life's big mystery. You know, you never know what somebody's going to sell. That's the problem with retail in general. There's no rhyme or reason to any of it.
Yeah.
You know, so you might have a slow day for absolutely no reason at all, and then you might have the busiest day ever the next day.
Right.
For the same reason.
Yeah.
None.
But why, right?
And that's what I'm trying to figure out because we have events every night. And last night you could be like, oh, people didn't come out because we had the Phillies. Then you're like, well, what about sales tonight? Is it because of the Phillies? Like, you don't know. You just
Yeah.
don't know.
You have no
you have
idea.
No idea.
No clue.
And you might not find out.
You might not find out, and it drives you nuts. You know, as a small business owner, my wife, she looks at the books every day.
Okay.
You know, she's a little more, I'm not going to say uptight about it, but she gets more concerned. I've been in retail my whole life.
Right.
So
It's the ebbs and flows.
It's the ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
And consumer spending, let's face it, nobody gets it.
No.
There's no chart for it, no book. Yeah, you just kind of go with what comes your way.
Got to go with the flow.
You have to go.
It's like surfing in a way.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Some days you get good waves, some days you don't.
That's
you
right,
know?
and that's why I don't own a business because when I surf, I crash.
Right.
And it might not work out for me.
Yeah.
But you guys, I mean, are absolutely doing fantastic. I know it's from Joel, and I know it seems from you have the same kind of mental attitude. And is that something when you tell people, especially if they want to get into retail, look, this is what you have to be ready for. Get your mind right to kind of work your way through this industry.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can't get discouraged with a slow day, you know, because once again, every day is different.
Right.
One of the biggest things that we learned over the years is, you know, we were always taught that, you know, owning a small business, if you don't make it, if you're not showing a profit or don't make it in 3 to 5 years, then that's it. I disagree with that 100%.
Right.
I say that number is actually probably closer to 9 years.
Okay.
Or 10 years.
Wow.
For that matter. Because it takes a lot,
Yeah.
you know, and that 3 to 5 years, there's so many expenses that happen that are unforeseen, especially if you have no idea what you're doing, like we didn't have any clue.
Right. You're charting into new waters.
You're charting into new waters, you know, and if you go by the metric of what's taught to everybody, I don't think it works. I don't
Yeah.
think that's real life. You know, unless you have a ton of cash behind you.
right.
you know, which we didn't. You know, but for example, when we first started, right? You know, but when we first started out, you know, my wife and I had this crazy, now we know, dumb idea that we could open our store, you know, with about $35,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, about $135,000 later,
Right.
we're moving.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
but now we have to make that 135 back.
Yeah.
Recalculate the business plan.
Recalculate the business plan. Well, some people are smart enough to have business plans. We don't.
He's riding that wave, buddy.
You know?
He repeated what I said, thought about it, was like, well, no, nope.
You know, and I hate to say it, and I'm embarrassed to say a little bit, but you know, we're entering year 19 and we're just coming up with our business plan. You know,
Decade number 2.
decade number 2, exactly, right? Now, fortunately for us, we actually have real numbers to go with,
Right.
You know, so it's not imaginary, made up
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
We have good statistics and data,
Yeah.
that we can create a legitimate business plan,
Right.
You know, which I hope banks will honor.
And I just love like connecting with you, and we were just talking about everything, and only we had a conversation that only fellow business owners can have. You know what I mean? We're just talking frank with each other. But when I always tell people, no matter what business you're in, people talk to you a certain way. So for me, it's always let me tell you a joke, which I embrace because I love it because it puts people in a great mood. Obviously, you're in the kind of similar business where who's in a bad mood when you're stuffing chocolate right down the gullet,
Right?
and so and people are always like, hey, you know, the show's sold out. Be like, oh, come on, you don't got two. Be like, well, if I only have a capacity, where are you gonna sit?
Yeah.
And then if you take those seats, where are those people gonna come in? Right. So what kind of I'm sure some people have missed an anniversary or maybe you're sold out of something and you're like, come on, man, I gotta get those
in the
chocolates
back.
for my wife or my husband or whatever case may. Do you have any funny stories where
Like,
people are like, you
I got
gotta
a Joel jonesing for candy over here.
It happens all the time. It happens all the
my
time.
chubby wubby bears at home just need.
It happens all the time. We and that's one of the hardest things for us. We take it personally, unfortunately.
Yeah.
When somebody comes in and we're out of something.
Of course.
Now, and like I had mentioned earlier, we make 80+ products.
It's a good and bad feeling.
It's a good and bad feeling. Like, sure, we like to be sold out of things because that means there's turnover. That means stuff's staying fresh, right? But at the same time, you hate to disappoint anybody.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and Joel, I'm sure you can imagine, like you said, when a show sells out and people want you to fit them in.
I didn't think it would sell out that fast.
You know,
like, come on, man.
Well, you know, and you hate to disappoint. You
Yeah.
want to
Of
let
course.
them all in.
Well, you're in the service industry
But
at
there's
the end of the day.
Yeah, at the end of the day, yes. For us, there's only so much time in a day.
So much only bandwidth and manpower.
And manpower.
Yeah,
You know.
and money to make all those products and hoping that you get the return.
And I'm not going to lie, that was one of the beautiful things with the during the height of the pandemic when we were curbside only and people could only order online.
Yeah.
Is that we didn't have to physically hear it. If we were out of something, they didn't see it online. They either chose something else or didn't buy from us.
Right.
Right. But
They
we didn't
navigated those waters by themselves.
You didn't have to feel that guilt.
we didn't hear the I was so looking forward to getting that. I can't believe you're out.
Yeah.
You know, and it was kind of refreshing on our end.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but you know, and that's something that we struggle with every day.
Yeah.
You know, because there's certain items. The other side of that is you never know, once again, the unpredictability of retail. You never know when somebody's going to come in and wipe you out of something.
Right.
Excuse me. So
Right. Oh, yeah. They could come in and buy 10 boxes of something that you don't know.
So I might make, say, 10 pounds of Swedish fish, right?
Ooh.
Chocolate covered Swedish fish. Huge seller.
Great, just for
Okay.
example.
Talk slower.
Right? And that's you know, a lot of chocolate dipped Swedish fish.
Yeah.
They might sit in my case for a week.
Yeah.
Right? With a few people buying here and there. And all of a sudden one person comes in and literally buys 5 pounds of them.
Yeah, for the entire soccer team.
Right? Well, now all of a sudden I'm out. Well, the next person that comes in is disappointed.
Yeah. And of course, the next person that walks in is the next person who wants those.
Wants the Swedish
Because
fish.
that's just how
And
things
I'm
go.
Right. Murphy's Law.
Yep.
I'm convinced that there's a psychology with customers that when you see an empty tray, all of a sudden that's what you want.
I think that's people. You always want what you can't have, right? Isn't that the
Right?
oldest saying, one of the
Yeah.
oldest sayings in the world? Yep.
Yeah.
I have customers that have come into our store for years. They buy the same thing all the time, which is great.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, I'm out of a particular product, and that particular person says, "Oh, I can't believe you don't have that. I was so looking forward to it." You never bought it in 19 years. All of a sudden, now you want it. Is that because the tray is empty? And to your point, do they see the empty tray? They want something that they can't have.
It almost makes you think you should keep just some in the back with empty trays,
Right?
just to maybe boost those
Just to
sales.
boost the sale. I like that. I like that idea.
Give it a try and report back.
That might be a retail phenomenon there.
Right.
You know, like,
Oh,
yeah.
I found a sneak. Oh, it's the tush push of retail.
James Mannern, the comedian who lived with me during the pandemic, splitting my sister's basement.
Not to brag.
Not to brag. He's allergic to peanuts. And by golly, do I not crave peanuts when I'm with him more than ever. He goes, "What are you trying to do to me, Bubbas?" I swear, it's some sort of kind of psychology. I'm like, yeah, I'm craving that.
Yeah, you want to kill your friend.
Right.
I don't, but I do.
So 19 years. Let's go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Why chocolate? Maybe it's just the easiest question.
Yeah.
My wife, she always knew how to make chocolate. So the way that,
What a good gal.
right? Yeah, it's not somebody bad to marry. Somebody that likes
I
to
have
make
one of those
chocolate.
as well. Mixed fudge and all kinds of bakeries.
Right?
Yeah.
And we really started the business about 24 years ago in State College.
Okay.
Oh, great.
We were home based, had all of our certifications, and would sell wholesale to like coffee shops and stuff like that.
Okay.
The name Sweet Ashley's comes from our daughter Ashley.
Yes.
She was 8 months old at the time. Still sweet then. Not just kidding, Ashley, if you're listening.
But as a father of a 14-year-old,
You know, she's 25 now.
I
so,
know. Yeah.
you know, we have our moments, and she is still sweet. But, you know, flash forward, we were doing it as a side gig. We moved back from State College. I grew up around here. And we always gave Christmas gifts to our family, like baskets of chocolate.
Yeah.
Mainly because we didn't have any money. I
Right.
worked in the golf industry. She was in the restaurant industry. You know, the struggle is real with a small child. She ended up getting into pharmaceuticals. We had some cash. So one year, we didn't have time to make the baskets, so we gave actual gifts. We thought, it might be nice to be traditional with Christmas and buy things that people might like. Everybody was so pissed off at us.
What? Oh, no. You got
They-
less Christmas cards the following year?
We were banished
Oh, no.
to a different room at the family gathering.
That's why they moved here.
You know, and I have an uncle who actually hosted Christmas, and he's the one that banished us. He's a pretty imposing figure.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he's a big guy. He was the doctor for the WWF
Oh, wow.
way back in the day.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah, and
Right up my alley.
So he's
Yeah.
he looks like a wrestler, you know, and so
Mike does not, but he's a big fan.
So he banished us, you know.
No.
My wife wasn't happy with her corporate job.
Okay.
Corporate America can be a challenge.
Yeah. Especially when you're working in pharmaceuticals, as I was.
You're right, and she was very good at her job.
Yes.
You know, kept getting passed up on promotions because she was too valuable to her department.
Right.
So, with the dissatisfaction of her job and getting banished at Christmas, we thought, you know what, maybe this is a road we go down. If people are that insane about it,
Yeah.
you know, and really want the product that bad that they're going to treat us this way when we don't have it, maybe it's time to take the leap.
Yeah.
It's like a focus group.
Right? Honestly, it really is. And we were 32 at the time.
Okay.
And we had a long, hard discussion. All right, well, if we don't do it now, are we ever going to do it? You know, so we made the jump. On Main Street, there was a vacant space that we saw. We looked in the window. We're like, oh, wow, this looks really cool. It had some scalloped shelves and whatnot. I said, wow, this looks like a candy store. We went to meet with the landlord, the owner of the property, and he asked us what we did. We said, we make chocolate. Mm-hmm. And he said, oh, well, my parents bought the building back in, you know, the 60s. It was a candy store.
So your intuition was correct.
So our intuition was 100% correct.
Yeah.
And, you know, we looked at each other. We're like, I don't want to curse on
Yeah.
the podcast.
This is fate.
but, you know, holy crap.
Yeah.
This is meant to be.
Yeah.
Right.
And
I would have had the same feeling. I'm from that school of thought. He's slowly joining us.
Very
things
slowly.
fall into place.
Yeah.
you
Bit of
know,
a Philadelphia pessimist.
for a reason. Well, aren't we all a little bit? Right?
yeah.
Especially with our sports teams.
Yeah, right,
This Phillies team is changing up my attitude. Let me tell you.
And good.
Yeah.
So we signed a lease. It was the craziest thing ever. It was a handshake deal.
Right.
Our landlord, because his family owned the building forever, didn't want a lease. We actually had to write our own lease,
Wow.
which was cool.
Yeah.
And we had 12 great years on Main Street. Yeah,
That's really cool.
It was nuts.
Yeah.
So
7 years later.
Yeah.
Now. I mean, well, 19, but you're still 7
Yeah.
years after that. That's a scary moment to move.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, what was that like? The transition of then, because 12 years, you have a great.
So
Comfort zone.
I guess I could get into this with you, right? And we had
Oh
this
yeah.
We
I wasn't gonna say I know nothing.
we hadn't planned to move at the time, and I'm not going to get into the gory details of it.
Yeah. There's always a couple of puppet masters behind this.
But there was
Pulling the strings.
there was a slight sewer issue,
Yep.
and
Is there ever a slight sewer issue?
fortunately it wasn't in the building,
Yeah.
but it was right outside of our front door.
Oh,
You can't sell chocolate when it smells funky.
And can I drop a 4-letter word or no?
No.
No,
But
okay.
I mean.
is it the S word?
Yes.
Just say the S word.
Okay,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
we didn't want our reputation to go to shit, literally.
Yeah.
Because
I meant to say the S.
unfortunately, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Unfortunately,
that caught me by surprise.
people would have to walk through it to get into
Yeah.
our store. So whenever there
It's like
was
me going into the porta pot last night at the Phillies game over the horse crap.
I can't
yeah.
even imagine. I can't even. Just going into a porta potty at a Phillies game in general is awful.
I know, but now you're going to leap over horse
I
crap.
must be the first person in here.
It's a new Olympic event.
right.
Steeplechase.
Back to you, Rob.
Sorry.
So, no, that's great. So we had to make a tough decision, because every time that would happen, we, as good food business owners, we would shut down for the day.
And you have to.
And we
100%.
never knew when it was going to happen, unfortunately.
Right.
And after
How long did you deal with it?
for the better part of 6 months.
Wow.
And it happened 4 different times where we literally had to shut down. And the mindset for us was that if that were to happen, say, the day before Valentine's Day, when I'm going to see 350 people, that would be a huge financial loss.
Not just
Right.
for that year, but for possible years
for
ahead of
future
time.
years. That,
Right.
I'm not going to say that could put us under, but that would have a serious hurt
Right.
on our business.
And the mentality of someone that comes to visit you,
Well,
and you don't know, and you're like closed.
And that's their tradition too. Stop
would they-
in
yeah.
Sweet
Yes.
Ashley's, get my sweetheart the chocolate they need on Valentine's
the
Day.
reputation,
not this year, not next year now.
our reputation could definitely take a hit.
Right.
Which
So-
rhymes what was in front of you.
right?
Yeah.
So we had to make that decision. We didn't want to, but we had to. We found the shopping center up the street that was, excuse me, the most reasonable. We looked at 3 different shopping centers, I think, and we decided, you know what, the one that we're in currently is a mile away. We're not going to lose any customers because most of our customers drove to our store anyway.
Yeah.
So they'll drive a mile either direction.
Right.
And we took the plunge. Ultimately, and to make that move cost us probably about $45,000, which we weren't planning on. We didn't have it in the budget. We
Like
didn't
you said,
have-
an unexpected
it
expense.
was unexpected expense.
Yeah. That was outside of your $35,000 you started with.
Right.
Yeah.
And the credit card companies loved us because we had to put a lot of it on cards.
Yeah.
And it's just how it was. And we opened in the shopping center. Limerick?
Yeah. Yeah.
And how many years ago was that?
7, right?
7 years
7
ago.
years ago.
Yeah.
We just started, I shouldn't say, we just started our 7th year on October 10th.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
That's
Thank you.
fantastic. Especially consider you moved, which is just a couple years before the pandemic. And talk about you opening up in Royersford right before the pandemic. Like that just, you're still finding your ground, your footing at your new location. And then all of a sudden the world changes.
Yeah.
But it's fate.
Yeah.
And in Joel's case as well. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, like, who wouldn't? We didn't know that was coming.
No. No,
you know?
exactly.
And like I said earlier, if we were on Main Street, we probably couldn't have survived it. I mean, we did thousands of curbsides.
Right.
Could you imagine doing thousands of curbsides on Main
Not,
Street?
no, not with
Logistically, it's not
one
possible.
lane in, one lane out.
It's literally
No.
not possible.
Yep.
You can do as many as you want in that shopping center. So
Oh my gosh! And at no point was there a wait. I mean,
that was God protecting you, and not to get into religion, but that's amazing.
in a weird way, yeah.
Yeah.
And we went so far as when the pandemic hit, and my wife and I, working with your spouse is an interesting thing, and she'll say the same thing.
Even when you're making chocolate.
Even when you're making chocolate, because the business end of it does come into play, unfortunately.
I get it.
It's not all sweet, you know? Right?
No pun intended
No
there,
pun
Rob.
intended, right? Yeah, sure. We were trying to come up with ways. Her fear was that we were going to get inundated with these curbsides. So we had all these yard signs made up. Text this number and we'll bring your order out and blah, blah, blah.
And now, wait. Had you had texting before?
We did not.
So that was another way that you reinvented.
That was another way. And I'm ever the optimist. I was like, it's not going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Knock on wood, it wasn't. And we had enough parking that never was there a wait.
Right.
Each transaction took 2 minutes.
Right.
Our system, we're not the smartest people in the world, but we're not the dumbest either.
Right.
That,
I'm right in that gray area as well.
right? I mean,
Not up here,
We
not
make a
down
lot
here.
of dumb decisions, believe me.
Same.
Yeah,
one sitting next to him.
Welcome to the team.
right? Yeah, how about it? Join the club. And it worked, and we didn't have to put in all these things that we were so worried about into place.
Wow, man.
But it's a cool thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Now
awesome.
here you are.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Let's talk about having something that you said your wife was such a great cook. She could make this chocolate, and all the friends and family that you gave it out as presents loved it. Talk about taking what you were doing in your kitchen and then now doing it in a much bigger setting and doing it in a much bigger batch.
Holy crap. We didn't know what we were doing. We literally were flying by the seat of our pants. So, now all of a sudden we have to worry about packaging. We have to worry about, we were always governed by the Department of Agriculture and our stores by the Board of Health. And with her being in the restaurant industry, we had that end kind of.
You had that understanding.
We had the understanding of it, yes. I worked in the golf industry my whole life. As a golf professional, we're not on TV on tour.
Right.
We're selling shirts, answering phones, and selling golf balls.
Yeah.
Right.
Golf clubs.
Right.
So I had the retail end of it.
Right.
But this was a whole new animal, because there's regulations with the FDA and the Department of Agriculture regarding labeling, regarding, weights and measures, allergy information, all this stuff that we had to quickly learn. We were always pretty cognizant of it. We knew, we had a rough idea.
They take it very seriously.
Of what we needed. They take it very seriously. We take it very seriously. Our insurance company thanks us for taking it very seriously.
Right.
And that's another thing. We had to deal with liability insurance. We had to deal with all these things that we weren't necessarily expecting and or prepared for. Hence why it went from, $35,000 to, $135,000.
Yeah.
We had to invest in label printers. We had to invest in, different things to make sure that we complied with all the rules and regulations.
Right.
Once again, not being the dumbest people in the room, we figured it out.
Right.
We figured it out. And it was a challenge. We had many, many, many fights.
Now, 19 years later, how many employees do you have?
So it varies.
Varies.
We're
The
definitely a
seasons.
seasonal business.
Okay.
Our summers are slow time. So, we maintain in the summertime our 3 part-timers. And then now that we get in the season, they actually pick up more hours. We've had up to 11.
Oh, wow.
In production, it is literally still just my wife and I. We had a good friend of ours that helped us in production for a couple of years, intermittently.
Yeah.
So on the production side, it's still.
So
just
you have to
us.
stay that consistent, the consistency, right?
Well, it's 2 things. It's twofold. It's consistency, and quality control, obviously, because chocolates. We have so many people that tell us that they make their own chocolate at home and all that stuff. It's not necessarily that easy.
Yeah.
Especially when you're dealing in the quantities that we are.
Yeah.
So maintaining consistency is our biggest hurdle. the other thing is logistics. So our manufacturing is actually behind our house in Limerick. We had to go through conditional use hearings and all the proper channels to be licensed to operate there. But our home is connected. So for us, like I mentioned earlier, we had a friend that was helping us. That was easy.
Yeah.
It's a friend.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about her being
In your
having
home.
access to my home. It's not technically in her home. But it's connected to the
Right.
home.
Separation of church and state.
Yeah, it has its own entrance,
Yeah.
and whatnot. But in reality, if she wanted to cruise into my kitchen and make herself a sandwich, she could. So we're hesitant on hiring for that because we really need to know that person.
Yeah.
Now, we're currently in the works, and hence why we're trying to finally develop a business plan
Right.
of expanding our production and moving into a much larger location for production, at which point I can hire people.
Yeah.
Where I don't have to work 12 to 14 hours a day, where we can kind of
I hear you,
manage.
buddy.
I feel now. I feel
manage.
bad that we brought him in here.
No, don't. I love this. This is a break for me. I'm on break time right now.
Well, yesterday I worked 15 hours because
Right.
these two yim yams had me on their show.
But the one guy had new clothes, so it looked really good.
Right?
Two grown men that were acted like children.
Yes.
And I'd rather have it that way.
Oh, thank you.
Well-
And honestly, we love what we do.
Yeah.
99% of the time.
Yeah.
So we don't necessarily mind. We don't complain about it too often.
But it's the facts of life.
But it's a fact of life,
Yeah.
and it gets back to that survival mode too.
Right. Right.
As a small business owner, we do what it takes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
to make it work.
Getting back to my my question that went earlier, do you have any stories that stick out with like maybe crazy requests or anything that like trying to help a customer?
Oof.
Any funny stories of dealing with
Well,
the general public that you can obviously share? Nothing-
yeah. I don't want to get R-rated.
Oh. People ask for the dark chocolate.
Weird request when we were in state college, and this is way back in the day.
Yeah.
We had a sorority that was on campus there at Penn State that had requested chocolate-covered gherkin pickles.
Okay.
Okay.
Delicious.
I believe I know where we're headed.
Yeah, right? Well, that's not the R-rated part.
Oh.
That was just an odd request.
Yeah.
You can take it whatever way you want. We can go whatever
That's
direction
what
with
she
that.
said.
Right? With that being said, one of the funniest or oddest or most uncomfortable situations I had, we were in our store, and we had just, we were probably 2 or 3 years in the business, and we had somebody that came in, a woman and her daughter. Her daughter might have been 16 at the time, and we're chatting, and she says, "Do you guys have any adult chocolate?" And I said, I don't know what you mean. At the time we didn't make it. We carried some items that were like chocolate body paint.
Right.
Yeah.
Weird things.
For people looking to spice it up.
Some novelty
people
stuff.
looking to spice
Yeah.
it up. Once again, we had no idea what we were doing.
Exactly. It's all edible.
Who our target market was.
Right.
We just like, this will probably sell, and it didn't really. But
I'm an adult. I've been eating chocolate for years. I don't know. I don't understand the question.
right. And that's kind of how I was, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
well, you have to further explain this to me.
I'd like to phone a friend.
Yeah.
And
It's like that
she's-
more you know stuff they used to play at the end of cartoons back in the 80s.
And she,
How do I solve this riddle?
right? And she said to me, no, I'm talking more like chocolate penises.
Oh.
No, that's not a bad word,
No,
No,
it's-
no.
That's medical, as a matter of fact.
anatomically correct, right? I mean,
Yes.
so, and I just kind of said, oh, now at the same time, this poor girl, her daughter that was next to her,
Oh, gosh.
looked so embarrassed. The 16-year-old girl, I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
She
just graduated
And my
sex
wife
ed.
wasn't there to help me. I'm just you're talking, two women talking to a guy about that.
And by the way, and as a fellow girl dad, as they say,
Yeah.
we've been in that situation a million times.
Oh, it's awful.
Where there's a conversation you just want to be anywhere else but in.
But there, I so wish my wife was there because
Go ahead and ask your mother.
She might have had a little more tact, or maybe could have answered a little.
Yeah.
A little more finesse.
And I hate to say it, I kind of chuckled and said, "Yeah, no, I don't have any molds for that, you know." But, you know,
It might not be the size you're looking for.
right?
That is not the chocolate you were looking
That's
for.
right. You know, and we can get into milk and dark chocolate and all that other stuff. You know,
White chocolate.
We can take it. We can take it to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
However, that was probably one of the funniest things that I've encountered.
Oh my, that is so funny.
So while you don't carry that product, what are your most popular products that
So
you
our
guys
most
carry?
popular piece is a piece we actually trademarked it a number of years ago. It's called Schuylkill Mud.
Oh, nice.
So it's a combination of toffee, peanut butter, pretzel, and potato chip.
Oh,
It's
sounds
It's in
amazing.
a cluster,
Worlds are colliding.
you had me at toffee.
right?
I love toffee's underused, by the way.
Salty, sweet, and crunchy.
I know, it's amazing.
Right, and we make solid toffee too.
Oh.
By the way,
We'll see you this
You have to-
afternoon.
You have to stop in. It was a hit. You know, we always say it's the best mistake we ever made. It truly was a mistake. My wife was we always made a pretzel that had toffee bits on top. Mm-hmm. The problem with toffee is that if it's exposed to the air, it gets soft after a period of time. After doing some research recently, I guess some people like soft toffee. We don't. So to come up with a solution, she decided to re-dip the pretzel after we put the toffee on it to seal it.
Yeah.
The problem with that is a whole bunch of toffee bits fall into the vat of chocolate. Now, we were working with smaller machines at that point, but here she had 10 pounds of chocolate with toffee bits in the bottom. We didn't want to throw it away, you know, because in our industry, the margins aren't huge.
Plus, it's all still delicious.
And it's all still delicious, yeah. And you don't want
It's
to.
all still good stuff.
You don't want to throw away anything.
Yeah, I'd Willy Wonka
You know.
dive right into that vat.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? So we pretty much just started adding stuff that we thought might be good. And Schuylkill Mud came about. We didn't know what to call it. So at the time, we were manufacturing in Spring City. Our home was in Spring City, but the store was in Royersford. So we crossed Schuylkill every day. There had been a bad storm. And when a bad storm happens on the Schuylkill, everything that runs down the river collects at the bottom of the bridge. So it's all lumpy and, you know, all the wood and debris. And we're driving over the bridge and we looked at it and we're like, oh my God, Schuylkill Mud.
Just hits you.
Just hits you.
And you were both in the car at the same time?
Yes.
At that time.
We were both in the car at the same time. Now prior to that, one of our customers, I'm going to do a shameless plug for him, Bill Potashio.
Okay, yeah.
You know-
Great
you know Bill?
guy. Great guy, yeah.
Potashio's driving school.
Yep.
He had recommended the name Schuylkill Sludge,
Okay.
you know, and
It's
It
similar.
sounds a little less appetizing.
yeah, a little less appetizing, but it's along the same lines, you know. And then that happened, and Schuylkill Mud became a thing. It became so popular that, you know, we have some wholesale accounts. We have 3 phases to our business. It's retail, wholesale, and corporate. Some of our corporate accounts across the state and or other states showed interest in the product. Now, I have an account in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, they don't care what the Schuylkill is. They have no idea.
Yeah.
In most cases.
They have their own 3 rivers.
So they get Monongahela Mud.
Ah,
See where I'm going there? I have accounts in Central PA up in Lock Haven.
Okay.
They get Susquehanna Mud.
Oh.
And then the craziest one is I have an account. There's a flower store outside of Cleveland. Mm-hmm. And she called and ordered Schuylkill Mud. And I said, wait a minute, whoa, do you know what the Schuylkill is? She said, I had no idea. It sounds interesting, though. I said, all right, let me do a little research. So I did a little research, and the Cuyahoga River. And we have Cuyahoga Mud. Now, when I was doing the research, I found out quickly that the Cuyahoga, at one point, was the most polluted river in the country, right?
And ever since, it's been our most popular selling
And
item.
you know, right? Now, go figure. For people that are a little older,
Charting the muddy waters.
charting the muddy waters, right? Back in the day, and you guys may be old enough to remember, there was a point in time where there was a river in this country, outside of Cleveland, that was on fire. The river was literally on fire because of the
Do not
pollution.
remember that.
Oh boy,
And that was the Cuyahoga.
Oh.
In a
it's just fun to say.
in a happy way, the Cuyahoga is actually now one of the cleanest rivers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they did a massive effort to
Because of that
to
embarrassing
clean up
moment,
the river,
Yeah.
which we're still talking
which
about.
we're still talking about. Correct, and it's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah.
So
Another way that your business has adapted by taking that great product and then renaming it to localize it.
to localize it, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because when we first named it, once again, what do we know? We didn't even think that. All right, people outside of Philadelphia aren't going to know what Schuylkill is.
No,
And
or even know how to say it.
Yeah.
our goal, right? Our goal essentially is to be somewhat of a national brand.
Right.
Let's face it, we're all branding.
Yeah,
Joel, you're branding
yeah,
Soul
yeah.
Joel's, I'm branding Sweet Ashley's.
Yeah.
We got to trademark our logo and name, so we're
Yeah.
technically a national brand. But the Schuylkill doesn't translate
Right.
everywhere. So yeah, we adapt and and make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do we
that's
have any
awesome.
Delaware River mud or anything down there?
No,
Delaware?
Delaware's nasty.
Well, you answered that quickly.
Yeah. No, we'll
It's
stick
just
to
a small
Schuylkill.
state.
Yeah.
I'm in Rhode Island. What does it matter?
Yeah, right.
Well, I was gonna say, how about have you? Because he said across state lines, so I was thinking Delaware. I'm like, any
Yeah.
rivers down in Delaware? I'm like, I don't know the Delaware River.
Right?
I wanna
Like
say
a
it
real
here.
dum dum.
Now, I'm pretty sure Delaware being so small and so close to us, they know what the Schuylkill is. So
Yeah,
they,
that's true.
They can,
That's
deal,
true.
They can
deal
figure
with
it out.
They
Yeah,
can figure it out.
yeah. In this area, this region.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Other than Schuylkill Mud, do you have any other unique products that have really kind of been your bread and butter?
Oddly enough, I'd mentioned Swedish fish earlier. So Swedish fish, we go through so many Swedish fish, it's insane.
I love that. One of my favorites.
It's funny, actually, my Lockhaven account that I just mentioned, I just got a call a couple days ago. They ordered 250 pounds of Swedish fish.
Whoa, I would imagine that's a lot.
That's a WWE doctor of Swedish fish.
Yeah.
That's a lot of Swedish
Yeah.
fish.
That's a big man.
So we started making the Swedish fish. My wife had this great idea. We had a hole in our case, a tray that needed something in it. So she decided to make the Swedish fish. Thought this might work. Little did we know that it was going to be a hit. To the point where when we would buy the Swedish fish, we used the larger Swedish fish. They only come in little bags that hang on a hook in the grocery store. It got to the point where I was going to every single grocery store and buying every single bag of Swedish fish. Oh, constantly. It was an issue.
Hey, honey, I'll be right back.
Gotta go raid the Wawa.
And,
Milk
of
and
course,
bread? Nah, I'm going to get Swedish
the
fish
people,
again.
The checkout people at the grocery store think you're nuts.
Yeah, yeah.
When I roll into the store, I'm the
Yeah.
craziest guy that there is.
Yeah.
I buy the
Does this guy
weirdest
drive a white van?
Speaking of you had an intervention about your clothes earlier.
stuff. Right?
They got an intervention with the Swedish fish guy.
Yeah.
Thank God I don't have an ice cream truck out there, right?
You're going a different way than I'm going.
However, it got to a point, thankfully, one of the distributors that we work with now sells the Swedish fish, that size Swedish fish, in
That quantity.
30-pound cases. But I'll go through 100 pounds of Swedish fish a month
Wow.
out of our little tiny
Yeah.
store.
Yeah.
And it's insane. Who would have thought?
Right.
We never knew.
Yeah.
We had no expectations, and here I am, making more Swedish fish than I ever considered.
Became an opportunity, though.
It became an
The
opportunity.
market dictates that.
Absolutely, and as far as being unique in our industry, it's tough because we all make caramels, we all make salted caramels, we all make buttercreams, we all make pretzels. So to come up with an item like mud or fish, and I guess when we first started making the fish, we were searching other chocolate stores around the country just to see, and there's literally a handful. Now the trend is catching on, and
Yeah.
there's more and more making it, so it's not quite as unique.
Stop marketing yourself so well.
Right. It's not quite as unique, but it's
Yeah,
still a thing, and people come to the store all the time. They're like, oh my God, chocolate dipped Swedish fish. Well, we like Swedish fish,
Yeah.
and we like chocolate, but we don't know that we like Swedish fish
Yep.
dipped in chocolate.
Yeah.
And that's an item that we'll sample all day long. We'll
Right.
say, well, here's the deal. Try one.
Yeah.
You like it or you don't.
Yeah.
And honestly, people either love it or they don't.
Right.
Yeah. Doesn't matter to us.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, like whether it's the comedy show or the restaurant, whatever event, other people are going to do it. You're going to eat somewhere else, and you want that for the local area and local businesses to do well. But you just have to do it better and just be unique.
Absolutely.
And satisfy your customers and whatever your customer base is going to be.
Absolutely. You know, that's something that I'm not going to say we struggled with over the years.
I think every business owner does.
But initially, you know, when somebody new comes to town, whatever, you kind of instantly you're on your heels.
right.
Like, competition.
Yeah.
You know. The reality is, come on, let's face it, especially where we're at geographically here,
Yeah.
there's enough population for all of us.
Yeah. Plenty to go around.
Yeah.
You know, so you see restaurants open up. Yeah, you know what? The ones that will make it are the ones that will be good at what they do.
Yep.
They'll have their niche, and that's it. You know, and that's not to say that, you know, hundreds of them can't do that
Right.
because there's enough population.
Just do what you do well.
Just do what you do well, you know, and you know, as a business owner, initially, I'm sure you struggle with it every now and then.
Daily.
You know, if another comedy club opened up,
Oh, well, that's not daily, but yes.
you know, 5 miles up the road or
Yes.
something like that.
Yep.
You know,
Oh, 100%.
initially it would
Yeah.
be, but the reality is, you know, let's face it, there's enough physical people here.
Yeah.
You know, and I tell my wife this all the time. You know, we generally see about 17 to 18,000 customers a year.
Wow.
Okay, which sounds like a lot. It's not. You know, over the course of the year, it's really not that much. In Limerick Township alone, we have 22,000 residents. That's just Limerick Township.
Yeah.
Right.
Forget about Upper Providence, Roars, Ford Spring City.
Right. There's a million
Phoenixville.
people in Montgomery County.
There's, if not more.
Well, if not more. Right.
You know, so with that being said, you know,
Yeah.
we have to rein ourselves in and say, all right,
And
you
just
know what?
remember that.
We
Yeah.
haven't even scratched the surface.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
not crossing the Schuylkill and other areas. Yeah. I thought the same thing, but then also I met the cheesesteak moguls in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a huge war. which
Rivalry?
Sometimes it could be.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But when I met Tony Luke and Gino of Gino's Cheesesteaks and Frankie that owns Pat's,
Yeah.
they're all friends.
There's a fraternity
they're all
there.
friends. They're a
Yep.
fraternity, man. They're all happy with each other because there's enough fat people in Philadelphia to keep them all in business.
Right. They might publicly seem like they're fighting.
Right.
Yeah.
But let's face it, they're feeding off of each other.
Yes. Literally. Yeah.
They really are.
Yeah.
One of the funniest things, so in our shopping center, and this isn't meant to be plugs or anything, it's reality. They just opened a Freddy's steak burger place, right next to Chick-fil-A.
Right.
And I thought it was the funniest thing. Literally yesterday they opened.
I just saw that, by the way, off the highway when I was heading down to the Phillies game yesterday. I was like, what is that? 'Cause it's a new
So of course, you know,
yeah.
I had to stop in because, you know, who
Just
doesn't
curiosity.
quality
Right,
control, like you
you
said.
know, the cheeseburger. And as I was exiting, their neighbors are Chick-fil-A.
Yes.
Who?
They never.
They do
never-
okay.
Yeah, they never
They
don't
do
have a
quite
line.
okay.
Yes.
Except on Sundays.
I'd love to print money the way they do.
Yeah.
But the amount of signs outside of Chick-fil-A trying to lure people into Chick-fil-A as Freddy's is opening. And I'm like, holy crap.
Oh, they upped their signage.
Oh my God. There's probably 20-yard signs in front of their little space. You know, eat more chicken and all that stuff, which is great. And I'm like, holy cow, they're worried about
Yeah. So even the busiest.
even the busiest,
Yeah.
biggest chains go through the same
Wow.
rows that we do. The reality of it is, let's face it, they're going to feed off each other.
Yeah.
You know,
They're going to bring more people in. It's the Phoenixville mentality.
I
Right?
watch
we talked
it.
about.
I watch it all
More
day
options, more people get off that exit.
long. I watch
Exactly.
it all day long. We have a Texas Roadhouse right across the way from us, and then an Applebee's right next to them. Right.
Yep.
Joel's going to ask you for a job. You keep,
Right?
you keep telling
Oh,
all the
we-
great food spots
I
that are
ate
over there.
before this, but yet I'm still hungry.
Yeah, we eat well in our shopping center.
Yes.
You know, I see it all day long where Texas Roadhouse might have a 45-minute wait. Well, what happens? Somebody doesn't want to wait. Where do they go? They're hungry. Applebee's is right next door.
Yep.
You know, so there's enough room for all of us. You know, at least, once again, geographically speaking, in our area. You know, that may not bode well in central PA or, you know, more rural areas, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And it took us a long time to realize that, by the way.
Well, because you're hustling, and your whole mentality is I got to keep going, keep fighting, keep clawing. When you you can take a breath every now and again.
You can.
Yeah.
You can, and it's a hard concept.
Yeah. Well, we mentioned your area. Let's tell everybody just where you are and how they can find you, because I'm on your website here. You got a fantastic website that basically shows everything that you guys have to offer.
Thank you. That's all part of that $140,000 investment.
It went up since his last plug.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, right. So we're at 70 Buckwalder Road, Unit 508. We're in the Limerick Square Shopping Center.
Yep.
Right off 422.
Right
there.
off 422, the Royers Ford exit of 422. We're on the very end of the shopping center, so we face Texas Roadhouse. I use that as a landmark all the time because they're very visible. You can order from us online at sweetashleys.com. We still offer curbside pickup, but you can also do in-store pickup. At the holidays, we actually encourage that, because if you see it online, especially going to Christmas, Valentine's, or Easter, you can order it for pickup, and then when you come in to pick up, add on to whatever you got.
Right.
But at least you'll get what you want.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We won't be sold out. To your point earlier in the conversation, we do run out of things.
Right. The inventory is updated on the website. You're guaranteed it.
As soon as we make it and package it, the inventory is updated. The inventory in the store is the same as the inventory on the website. So as long as my wife and I are not idiots and do it correctly,
Yeah.
Right.
those numbers are correct. So
Right.
You can always call us, 610-948-1085.
Yeah.
And follow them on Facebook, facebook.com. Sweet Ashley Chocolate is the Facebook page, facebook.com, so Sweet Ashley Chocolate. And are you guys on Instagram and stuff like that?
Instagram, Instagram, and I guess X
or Twitter.
Twitter, whatever. You know, I'm
Whatever
old.
Elon's calling it
I'm
today.
not gonna lie, we're not as up to date on Twitter and X.
Same.
However, we're trying.
Yeah.
But Instagram and Facebook for sure. Whenever we have new product offerings, they always hit Facebook and Instagram.
Well, I just clicked that like button,
You know, there
so
you
I'm
go.
going to keep up to date with all the stuff that's
I'll
happening.
do another shameless plug for Hello 422.
Yes. Chris is great.
Chris is great.
Yep.
They did an awesome video. Did you see that
Oh,
video? Joel?
yep, the buddy.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome video of Schuylkill Mud.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
if anybody wants a good laugh, watch the video for this.
Is it on
It's
your-
shot so well, and it's such high quality.
We did share it on our Facebook page at one point.
All right, I'll track it down and I'll share it on the Mornings with Mike page so people
Please
can
do.
go ahead
Please do.
and watch it.
Yeah, because it's high quality, you know, and it's pretty comical.
There it is.
That one right here?
That one right there. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to share it right now onto the
Yeah.
Mornings with Mike
So you-
page so everybody can check this
So
out.
you'll actually get to see how we really source Schuylkill Mud.
All right.
Oh, yes.
I can't wait to watch it.
But Chris has been a huge supporter of local businesses and really grown it, not only emailing people, but come up with different ideas of how to make it cool to market and keep the local businesses on people's minds in the forefront.
Absolutely. And I know the pandemic is a touchy subject with a lot of people, but if anything good came out of the pandemic, that's one of the good things that came out of the pandemic.
100%.
That was the whole motivation behind what he did. I don't mean to speak for Chris.
Yeah.
But
No, he appreciates it.
you know, yeah, right. And I think what he's done for a lot of small local businesses has been phenomenal.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of exposure that people wouldn't normally have or even know how to do.
Right.
More
Exactly.
importantly, because you know, we can only be masters of so many crafts.
Exactly.
You know, and
he does it well.
If you would have asked me 30 years ago, you know, that I'd know how to do Facebook and videos and
Yeah.
blah blah blah, I'd laugh. I'd
We're
laugh
too busy using our hands for other things.
You right?
Yeah.
Well, not you and I.
No, of course not. Thank you, Mike.
Rob Lawson, Sweet Ashley, man, we appreciate you coming in.
My pleasure. Thanks for
This is
having
great.
me, guys.
You were fantastic.
Yeah, I appreciate it.